Hello, Scrufftards. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And we're gonna take a quick look at the Boxer, this juggernaut of an armored vehicle that Ukraine has been promised. Two versions, or well, a Boxer is a number of versions, but apparently they've been promised the artillery version and the potentially the infantry fighting vehicle version as well. So we're gonna take a look at what the Boxer is and what makes it so special. Ukraine has been promised two versions: the infantry fighting vehicle version, as I understand it, and the artillery version. And it's a effective howitzer can fire 8 rounds per minute, if I'm not mistaken. 155 millimeter standard NATO artillery. And as you can see, um, or you can't see it, but it can, as I understand it, fire direct fire. It just doesn't have to do the howitzer thing and shoot them in an arc at something in the distance. It can actually lower the gun and fire directly at a target like a tank, making it potentially a capable tank destroyer. Or if you have a building right in front of it, it can just obliterate it with 8 rounds per minute. Uh, a very devastating vehicle, in other words. And the infantry fighting vehicle version, heavily armored, obviously. A 35 millimeter gun, depending if you want the 35 or 30 or whatever. But here we have the 35 millimeter. Can also carry anti-tank guided missiles and what have you. It can survive RPGs and I suspect drones. In the case of Ukraine, I think the Germans will apply a lot of armor to the top armor here to give it extra protection from drones. And it's fast as hell. Since it's wheeled, it is much faster than tracked vehicles, even off-road. It is a very capable vehicle thanks to a powerful engine. And as a transport, it can carry a lot of troops and several tons of equipment. And so, as you can imagine, if you're Ukraine and you want to move troops and supplies back and forth from a supply depot to the front line, a vehicle that can move at speed, can traverse terrain, and can take punishment from drones and deliver large quantities of supplies in one go. I mean, this is gonna be a vehicle they will have a lot of use for, would be my guess. And yeah, it's been out now for like a decade, I think. So it's not brand spanking new, but it's certainly one of the newest vehicles out there, and it's very versatile because one of the nifty things about these vehicles is that uh, the front section and the lower section here is one part of the vehicle, but this part back here you can swap. You can actually make this vehicle, the infantry fighting vehicle, into this vehicle, the artillery version, or a ambulance, or a command and control vehicle, or whatever. You just swap this bit. It's quite nifty. So this is what makes the Boxer truly special. It can do this within the hour. You can roll in and then replace the part behind the crew compartment. And as you can see here, you have a door and there's another door. So the door in the module fits perfectly with the door leading into the crew compartment. And then you replace this, whatever you want back here. Roughly an hour. You can swap it from being a pure APC to becoming an infantry fighting vehicle, or a ambulance, a medevac vehicle, or an artillery piece. Uh, Quite incredible. So, I mean, you can adjust your fleet of Boxers to the situation at hand. What do you need at the moment? And if you have a couple of modules to spare and all of a sudden you need more firepower in the front line, well, hell, bring in a command and control vehicle or an ambulance and just remove the module and then fit the gun onto the vehicle, and it can just drive on out and take part in the battle in an hour and a half or what have you, right? Quite incredible. Right, as you can see here, you have a truck that's helping out with lifting the infantry fighting vehicle module onto uh, the Boxer, this flatbed pickup armored vehicle thing. I mean, it looks very, very futuristic and sci-fi, this whole concept. So this is what Ukraine is receiving. And remember, like according to rumors, they're going to receive the artillery version and the infantry fighting vehicle version. And basically, the truck can be both, right? So they're going to get a bunch of the Boxer trucks and or armored vehicles, and then a bunch of modules that can be either the IFV version or the artillery version. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this system actually performs in a real war. Will Ukraine utilize this and swap between the modules as needed, or will they stick with one vehicle put together and just keep it as it is? Or will we see that this modular system actually works once it gets out into the field? Now, one thing with the Boxer is the size. You could see quickly there compared to an Abrams, and here you have compared to a bunch of other vehicles. Just Google this Boxer size. Just Google it, and you'll get these images as well. I mean, it is insanely large. It is a huge vehicle. I mean, it can actually take cover behind a tank and fire over the tank. It's just insane. And I've always been skeptical of its size. It's like, where will it hide? How can it remain hulled down? Where can it? It's going to have less terrain features to utilize to maneuver and stay out of harm's way and stuff like that. But in Ukraine, where drones are such a threat, then maybe a vehicle of this size has a place, right? It's large, it can carry a lot of additional armor packages, which will keep it safe, right? So you need this huge vehicle with this powerful engine, so you can just put as much armor on it, proper armor, not just, scrap heap Mad Max style armor, but proper armor to protect it from the drone. So maybe in the chaos of the Ukrainian war, the Boxer actually will perform quite well with its size, because of its size. It's not a conventional war where you sneak around and use terrain features to hide and they then take pot shots at the enemy. The drones are everywhere. They will spot you. And if you're big, yes, you're going to get hit. But if you're big, you can carry a lot of armor that might actually potentially keep you safe. So what will the armament be? Not entirely sure, but I suspect they will receive something like this version here. It has the same turret as the Lynx infantry fighting vehicle that Ukraine also will receive, and that has a 35mm gun, automated turret, crow's nest, with a 50 cal, and could also carry anti-tank guided missiles, 2 of them. The 35mm gun, it is a powerful gun. You can compare it here. This is the 25mm on the Bradley, and here you have the 35mm on the Boxer and Lynx infantry fighting vehicles. So as you can see, a substantial size difference between the Bradley and this vehicle. So it can take a lot of punishment. It is fast, it is mobile, and it can dish out a lot of hurt onto the enemy. And basically, there is only a tank can soak up the damage from this cannon. BMPs, BTRs, anything that isn't a tank will get shredded by this round as this chain gun begins to fire. What is it, 3 or 4 rounds per second or whatever it is. Insanely powerful weapon that will demolish anything that it comes across, except for tanks. But even if it's a tank, then it has, or hopefully it will have, the anti-tank guided missiles that will allow it to maneuver and find a good position where they can launch these things and take out that target. And by God, the Ukrainian mechanized forces, they are actually becoming they will be the most advanced mechanized force on the planet in 2025. It is quite insane. No other army will even come close or compare to the Ukrainians. They will have CV90-35s, the most advanced CV90 version out there. Incredibly powerful vehicle with a 35mm gun, anti-tank missiles, active protection system, modern armor, and what have you. Then they're gonna receive the Lynx infantry fighting vehicle, again a 35mm chain gun, potentially with anti-tank guided missiles, state of the art, just like the CV90-35. These vehicles are on a whole other level than anything we've ever seen before. State of the art. And then, of course, Ukraine already has the CV90 with the 40mm Bofors, and the Charlie version, which is the upgraded, armored version of the CV90-40. And here you can see the 35mm rounds on these vehicles, and the 40mm round on the CV90. I mean, these vehicles can plow through any type of terrain. They can take a lot of punishment. You need more than just a drone or a RPG to take these vehicles out. And you add the BOXER to that. I mean, Ukraine will have an incredibly powerful mechanized army in 2025 as more of these vehicles drop in, BOXERs will drop in. Ukraine won't receive any more of these, but the deal is that Sweden, Denmark, and the Netherlands will make sure that Ukraine gets a lot of these, plenty of the CV90-35. And the Germans will, of course, bring in the Lynx and now the BOXER. So Ukraine will have an extremely powerful mechanized force by the end of 2025. And I mean, it doesn't end there. They have the Leopard 2A6 with the L55 gun, 120mm. By far the best tank gun on the planet at the moment. Superior range, superior accuracy, superior penetration, and the best tank on tank vehicle you can find on the planet. This is a sniper, and it can take out any target that comes across with ease. And then they also have the Swedish STRV-122, the most heavily armored Leopard 2 tank in the war. Unfortunately, Ukraine has only received 10 of these. They have been taken out. A couple have been lost to mines. Russia's tried to snatch 1 or 2, and they've been hit by anti-tank guided missiles. But despite all of that, despite the losses of the vehicles, the Ukrainians tells us that not a single crewman has been killed within this tank. So it's a incredibly powerful tank and one of the most offensive tanks in the war. And Ukraine uses them to drive straight up to enemy positions and fire within 400 meters from the enemy, relying on the heavy armor. So if you combine the mechanized units with all their very capable infantry fighting vehicles with the tanks available to the Ukrainians, I mean, their armored forces as a whole are very impressive indeed. But we can't forget, and we should not forget, the American Bradley and the American M113. Uh, they carry so much weight in the Ukrainian army when we're talking about Western support, at least. Uh, because Ukraine has only so far received 50 CV90s. They've received a handful of mortars, but they don't. The mortar only has a 20 millimeter gun, so I mean, it's not enough, right? But they have received, what is it, 300 Bradleys and more coming. I don't know how many M113s they've received, but whenever a Western nation provides a aid package, it seems as if it's loaded with M113s. And Ukraine is using them for assaults, for medevacs, for supply runs, and what have you. This is a very versatile vehicle in the Ukrainian army, and they use it for every task imaginable. And these vehicles are carrying a heavy burden, and that is why when Europe has these fantastic vehicles, extremely capable vehicles, the CV90, the CV90-35, the Lynx, and now the BOXER, Ukraine needs them in numbers, not just a handful here and there. They need them in proper numbers so that they can have a proper effect on the front line and the battlefield. Because these vehicles are old. These vehicles are old and outdated. They may still perform well against the Russians because the Russians utilize crap, but they are old, really old. Even the Bradley is like from the early 80s in design, and yes, it's been given some upgrades here and there, but it's still an old, outdated vehicle with a 25 millimeter gun. I mean, you remember you saw the images previously in the video of the size comparison. It's a small gun, and I mean, it's like I said, it's an old vehicle, and you need something new. And not only new, you need them in numbers. So this 50 CV90 with the 40 millimeter Bofors, excellent addition, but they really needed what, 200-300 of them so that they could properly go on the offensive with these vehicles, bringing that big gun into the fight properly. And the same thing is true for the 35 millimeter on the Lynx and the BOXER and the CV90-35. You need numbers so you can actually push into the enemy and make use of these powerful guns, these powerful missiles that they bring with them. So hopefully Europe will actually provide Ukraine with enough numbers so that these vehicles can make a difference on the battlefield. The United States is bringing in Bradleys and M113s in vast quantities, and that is very much a necessity for Ukraine to have these numbers. But these vehicles are old, and Ukraine really, really needs proper vehicles in large numbers. So yeah, Ukraine will receive Boxers, very interesting, big, large, massive vehicles. Will they perform as intended? We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting. I mean, this war it's turning. It feels like it's turning into a sales pitch. Now that Germany wants to give them the Lynx, the Boxer, to see how they actually perform in war, and then you can use that for as a sales pitch. And the same thing with the CV90-35. Sweden is providing Ukraine with CV90s and showing the world how effective they are in combat. And you know, all of this will obviously, at the end of it, have a huge impact on arms sales, right? Do you want a vehicle that has not been tested, or do you want a vehicle that has been tested in war and that is proven to be an excellent vehicle, armored vehicle in the heat of battle, right? I mean, the Ukrainians aren't complaining. Obviously, they want these vehicles, these big, large, capable vehicles with a lot of firepower. I just hope they receive ample numbers. right? They don't need 20 or 30 of each of these vehicles. They need at least 100 of each uh, to have any chance of having an effect on the front line. And hopefully Europe will do what the United States is doing and provide a couple of hundreds of infantry fighting vehicles, but because that is what Ukraine well and truly needs. Uh, on that note, though, I mean, I said that United States has done the right thing to provide Ukraine with 300 Bradleys. That's like we say in Sweden, a piss in the ocean. They have, what is it? How many thousands upon thousands of Bradleys in storage, including tanks, Abrams tanks, thousands of them that are just collecting dust somewhere. I mean, United States could, hand over a lot of vehicles to Ukraine to ensure that Ukraine has a steady supply that they can replace former Russian Soviet-style vehicles slowly but surely with Western vehicles and Western weapon systems. But anyway, I guess that's a video for another time. Time to end this shit. As always, go på marsch Ukraine and give them hell.